Hey guys, welcome back. Thank you for joining me today. Today we're going to talk about a dashboard I created that's looking at airport data. A little bit, some context about that. One of the things I got down on a rabbit hole online, kind of searching for data, and I came across this website called the Bureau of Transportation. So, what airlines do, and specifically airline carriers and airports, they submit all their open public data to the Bureau of Transportation so that you're able to kind of download all this data, particularly um, from specific airports. So the database I ran into in the Bureau of Transportation Statistics was looking at all domestic flights for all airports, whether they're large airports, medium-sized airports, small airfields, as long as the airports are submitting data to the Bureau of Transportation, then you have access to that data. So I was able to download, at least going back 24 months, all this data that it had on offhand for domestic flights. Now, for the most part, the bulk of major airline carriers are going to submit to this database. So this was a pretty credible source to get data. Now, I was able to download, when I mean download, I meant manually download every month for the last 24 months. And I use Alteryx to kind of combine everything all together using a directory tool to union everything into one complete data set. Now, came across being around, I don't know, maybe like 100 million rows of records for all these 24 months. A lot for Tableau public to kind of digest. So I thought for this exercise, I would look at only DFW Airport. So I took any data of flights that either departed DFW or arrived at DFW. So for the purpose of this conversation, we'll only be talking about any traffic at DFW Airport. Okay, and what we're going to do is create a dashboard that kind of looks at on-time performance. So the major uh, concentration in the data is just on-time performance. So we're looking at delays. What were the delays attributed to? Whether they were attributed to weather, to delayed by the carrier, delayed by the airport. Looking at any diverted flights, any canceled flights. So I wanted to create a dashboard that kind of gave you a lay of the land, so to speak, of what's happening at DFW Airport for all these flights, whether they're departures or arrivals. There's some type of metric that we're measuring up against. There is what's basically an FAA time of departure and an FAA time of arrival, and that's our benchmark here. Is we're going to look at departures. Did they follow that FAA time, or was it delayed? Was it early? So we'll look at all those impacted flights and see if we can get some type of dashboard together that gives us kind of what's going on by a carrier, what's going on by certain time periods, and I'm going to walk you through all the different areas of the dashboard that I created for this. So let's go ahead and go to the Tableau dashboard now. I put this up on my Tableau public real quick, just kind of lay of the whole dashboard here. Um, Lots of things to cover today. I have some bands here. I created some spark lines underneath the bands. I've created a Sankey graph here. Um, a bar chart looking at percentages of impacted flights. I have a scatter plot here that looks at taxi in versus taxi out average times. And then I created a histogram here based on distance groups. So every flight, whether they were arriving at DFW or departing DFW, has a set schedule of where the flight's going. So we took all those distances of each of those flights and compiled them all into a distance group bin and created a histogram for that. And then we have a heat map here that you can go back and forth by time of day and by day of the week, and just to get a feel for where the concentration of whatever the KPIs you select is centered around, whether it's flights, departure delays, arrival delays. So you can get a sense of where that is concentrated. I have a map here that shows marks. So this is a double layer map that I have here in the comment. A two-layer map circles shapes for the flight volume, and then are the states are colored based on the KPR measure selected right here. So right now they're select the states are colored by flights. If you were to change it to departure or arrival delays, it'll get colored for that too. Then I have a parameter up here that kind of controls the whole dashboard here. You can kind of look at everything at the last 24 months, which is the whole data set for DFW, or the last 12 or last 6 months. And then, of course, I have some credits that I'd like to, shout out, especially for those that inspired me, particularly for the Sankey here. I have a shout out here for my, um, for buddy of mine that I met at the Tableau conference, Kim Flairledge. Um, he has a really cool blog out there on how he worked in a Sankey based off the original post here that I've also shouted out on Jeffrey Schaefer for his note here too. All these are URLs you can go here and read up and do the same thing I did and learn how he was able to create this Sankey. The one thing I liked about Ken's kind of modification here is he created a multi Sankey. So I have 3 layers, and then he also created a white space element, so you can kind of mess around with the Sankey and really get a feel for how you want it to get how you want it to be viewed. So if I increase the white space, you can kind of get a feel for all the flows of the different cohorts and all the flights and where they're going. Okay, so let's get started first. Created some bands here. I want to walk you through this, kind of talk about the bands. We're looking at everything with the last 24 months, so you can see for immediately if I'm working for DFW airport, I want to get a sense of how our on-time performance is going, whether it's traffic, whether it's our staff on the ground, our ground crew. I can get a sense of the lay of the land here. So last 24 months, 1.1 million flights. Let's take a look at delay volume. So of those 1.1 million flights, there's a delay volume of about 42,000 flights. You see it broken up there by departures and arrival, percentage share of that 42,000 flights that are delayed, and then about 34,000 that were canceled and or diverted flight volume. And then you can get a feel for that band in terms of a spark line here and how it looks by month. So here are the 1.1 million flights by month. You can kind of get a sense of, you know, every month what the volume looks like. And then I also have departures and arrivals here set up in a spark line here. The color the same, so you can see departures are in blue, arrivals are in red. This I like doing this because it takes away from having to put a color legend in there. You can automatically see that, oh, I have departures here colored in blue, so that reflects departures here in this spark line. Canceled and diverted flight volume also with a spark line here. So if I were to change this to this parameter here the last 12 months, you can see that everything here will change based on that parameter. And now you have a sense of flight volume and the spark line for those last 12 months. Really cool. I like that. Let's go back to 24 months. All right. Look at the map here. All right. So the cool thing about this map, all the marks represented on top of the states are the actual airports. So, for instance, if the flight arrived to DFW from another location, then that location is going to be marked here, right? If it's departing DFW, then I also noted the destination. So this is just kind of a feel for traffic and where it's going. So any kind of traffic or airline flight that's arriving at DFW, either from an origin location or it's leaving DFW to a destination, I have all those locations here. So it gives you a sense of service portfolio, what other cities were either servicing planes for or receiving planes for. Okay, so let's go through this real quick. Notice how I have it by flights, origin state. And remember, feedback's always welcome. I can automatically see here if I was looking at this, like I would probably say, all right, something that I would probably do is I would add the either the destination or origin airport code. Why? Because I'm already listing the state here, Montana, 3,400 flights, right? But then when I go to the mark here of 1,000 flights, that's the location from a GPS coordinate locate I can visually see. But it might make sense to add the airport, this perhaps the airport name, the code, and that's something that we can do real quick right now, right? Let's go ahead and do that. Let's dig into that map. All right, so here's the map. I am going to go to the Mark one. All right, here's the flights. Check that out. So there's the origin code, origin name. Let me see really quick if we can. I just hit control. I left clicked on origin code. I'm gonna put that in the tooltip. Tooltip. Let's do origin code. Colon. Let's add the name in there too. Okay. Oh, what happened? What happened to the origin? I guess I didn't save it. Okay. I didn't save it. So let's do origin code. Colon. Origin name. Origin airport. Okay. Preview that. Abilene region, Abilene, Texas. I think that looks okay. So now that when we applied that additional descriptor, the code BIL, Billings, Montana, Billings, Logan International. Look at that. Las Vegas, Nevada, Harry Reid International. Denver, Austin, El Paso. I like that. It adds more flavor to what we're actually seeing, and it actually gives life to that mark, right? Rather than just seeing flights in the state, you're like kind of wondering what's going on here. So I'm gonna do this. Yeah, add that designation in there too, just in case. Because I just noticed that I have destination here as a filter, and we're probably gonna have to add that just so that we can make sense of this. Okay. Um, all right. I added destination and destination airport into the tooltip. I'm gonna do the same thing here. Dest is called this airport origin. Okay. Hit OK. Let's see how it looks now. I like that. So now I can go back to the dashboard here and see the modification on the map. So now if I hover over, you now get a sense of the origin state and the flight, basically the flight description from Seattle to DFW, 7,412. Denver to DFW. So these are all the flights coming into DFW. Okay, now let's move on to the Sankey here. Again, great post by Ken. Take a look at his website with his brother, the Fletcher's twins, and a lot of great stuff on there. I really liked the Sankey template that he broke down, and I took a look at all the original posts that he gave credit to. So I went down that rabbit hole, that Sankey rabbit hole, if you will, and kind of got a sense of how great Tableau minds are thinking and how they're putting it all in. And it's a lot of great stuff. Really great. Sankey's not something I usually do at work a lot, but I like how it looks visually because I wanted to get a sense of flow of what the flights are, what's happening to the flights from a cohort perspective. So notice how I'm only doing impacted flights. I'm not really looking at all the flights because there are on time flights. So if I just did on time flights here as another cohort, it's just going to go straight to like this orange one and stop there. Um, that's not what I wanted. I just wanted to look at impacted flights and get a sense of what's happening to each of those flights from a cohort perspective. Uh, so just to get a sense of the land here, you have your population, your impacted flights. You have these are going, these are canceled flights, these are delayed flights, these are your diverted flights. Then from the canceled, I actually broke it down to additional things. So now I have canceled by carrier, weather, national air system. These delayed flights, I have them going into other separate buckets. So buckets by delay, like bins. So you notice how this one is our early flights. They came in negative 15 minutes early. You have some here that are within 15 minutes late. And then all these individual ones that look like they're black, but they're not. They're just bordered by black, but they're still orange. They're going in individual buckets here, like 30 to 44 minutes late. And then you have another canceled one here that's pretty big, which makes sense. Canceled because of weather. So I like this. I do love the white space functionality to this because if I mess with it, maybe I make the white space small. Notice how it inflates the Sankey, and I really lose that visibility of those really small cohorts. But if I increase it, then I get that back. I get some visual representation there of those smaller legs of the Sankey. I like it a lot. Please check out Ken and his brother's blog. I urge you to, get in there, go down the rabbit hole of all their posts, and just be amazed of all the stuff they've done. Really, some great guys to kind of lean on in terms of learning from them. Okay, impacted flights. I took this same population, the impacted flights here by airline carrier, right? But I wanted to get a sense of how many were delays, how many were canceled, and then how many were diverted. So flights, they're really small, not to worry about it. But look at the delays and the canceled. You can get a sense by carrier, right? What's happening and which ones share the most burden from between delays and cancel. Taxi in versus taxi out. This looks at the average. So basically, what a taxi time is the moment that you land, from the moment you land to the moment you board at the gate. So I did this by carrier. Every mark is represented by a carrier, and you can kind of get a sense. I added a show hide. Um, Notice how I added a show hide button here, and you can kind of mess with the months. Get a sense of the movement, what's causing that average time to increase or decrease. Obviously, travel is going to have more of a seasonal effect. So the higher months of travel where you get more traveling time, like the summer, maybe November for Thanksgiving, you may see some larger taxi times there. And then this will change based on the parameter. This is looking at the last 24 months, and if you activate the show hide, you can actually do the page shelf feature and cycle through the months within the time period. Okay, now this is looking at the departure and arrival delays by minutes. So I broke out those averages based on a histogram for distance group. So you can kind of see If we're looking at the top, which is the arrivals, the highest number of delays, which is based on the color legend, red represents the high a high delay. So for the arrivals, the light blue ones, since there isn't really isn't a red bar here, the light blue ones are going to be represented by your high average delays for arrivals. You got 12 minutes there for a distance group of 500 to 750 miles. Whereas if you go to departures, which are, you know, flights leaving DFW, notice how you have some really, really large delays. 17 minutes, 16 minutes, and then you get a sense of volume for that bin. Okay, I like this heat map. I broke it down here by bins of hours for the day, and then I did a cross a y-axis look at it by day of the week. Notice how just looking at flights in general, you can see our heaviest times of the day are late morning, 10 a.m., noon. Obviously, nothing's happening early morning. There are some flights registering, but when nothing's really occurring, you only have look at that on total 8 flights. So you're rarely going to get any delays here. So if we look at departure delays, hardly any delays here. Most of the delays are going to be corresponding with your high volume hours, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12. So middle of the day, a lot of action going on at the airport. Arrivals, same picture, same kind of scenario here. You have some sprinkled blues in here. So from what I can see is there's probably a lot more to check off in your checklist for over for turning over a plane for a flight. There's probably a lot more to check out for departures. Arrivals, I would assume, in the terms of what's going on with these measures, our only job is to make sure that they're coming in on time. If they don't come in on time, it's probably an issue that's downstream in their route. So departures are probably our main our main priority here, making sure that we clamp down on any delays for departures. Um, and that's merely around turnover, right? You want to be able to turn over the plane. So if the plane comes in and it's delayed on arrival, may not be an issue for us as DFW Airport, but we need to make sure that we're turning over that plane and getting it ready for the next flight to get more for folks out to their destination. So I can see that importance is probably going to be centered around any departures, making sure that we're turning over that plane immediately, and that we have an adequate amount of staff on the ground to do that. Whether it's maintenance, whether it's QA of the flight of the actual jet, um, turning over of the appearance of the plane, baggage handlers, ramp agents. A lot of folks just going over are involved in the turning over of the jet. So um, this was really cool data set to work with. A lot of great measures on this. I'm really excited about maybe looking at it from a different perspective. Maybe I can look at it from a carrier standpoint and only look at carriers and delayed flights for each of those carriers. Maybe peel out some cool visuals that can show maybe why one carrier is ramping up, ranking up a lot of delays versus another carrier. That's probably a good opportunity to do that. But overall, I really liked what I did here. I wanted to make sure I gave credit out to the folks that inspired me for the Sankey, so I have that there. I'll also have the link on my blog, and then I also have the URL to where you can actually download the data yourself. and kind of play around with it on your end. So take a look at this. Go to my Tableau public profile. Play around with this view. Let me know what y'all think. A lot of great things. I'm glad you were able to kind of sit down with me as I made this quick modification to the hover tooltip. And yeah, let me know what y'all think. Those of y'all that work in the airline industry, uh, give me your thoughts. What are some of the things that you look at? What are some of the things that you would have put together specifically in terms of on-time performance of at an airport? What are some of the measures aside from looking at flight volume, delays, canceled diversions, delayed times? Um, I would have loved to have like an employee component, just to get a sense of how many um, equivalent employees we had on the ground to work on this, to get a sense of, is it a staffing issue? Is it an issue with weather? Is it an issue with other airports delaying those flights getting to DFW? So those are some of the things that I probably would have investigated more if I was working at this capacity. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this little quick rundown, and let me know what y'all think. Take care. Bye.